Hey guys, it's Sejal, and today we're going to be making a mango cake, which I'm super excited for. This is perfect. Whenever I go to the Indian grocery store, I've been finding a lot of fresh mangoes, so this is a great way to use all of them and just make a really delicious cake. None of the recipes in this video are my own, so I will link them down below. This was inspired by Natasha Kitchen's website, and she made a mango cake. I'm going to be decorating my cake like hers, but I did change around my recipes a little bit. I'm not using the sponge cake recipe that she's using or the frosting recipe that she's using, so she gave me the idea, but I did kind of put my own spin on it and mix a few different recipes around. The first thing that we're going to be making is an Italian sponge cake, and we are going to be starting off with making the meringue for it. Sponge cakes usually require a lot of eggs because of how fluffy and dense they are at the same time. But I have been a vegetarian all my life. I don't use eggs while baking. So instead of using eggs, we're going to be using some aquafaba. And if you don't know what aquafaba is, it's actually the liquid that you get out of a chickpea can. So you can use any chickpeas that you want and drain them and make sure to save the liquid from the can. And that is our aquafaba. 3 tablespoons of aquafaba equals 1 egg. And since the recipe that I'm making yields for 5 eggs, this is 15 tablespoons of aquafaba. Okay, so I put all of my aquafaba into a bowl, and now we are going to whip this with a few other ingredients to get a really nice meringue. I did bring the camera in closer so that you guys can get a better idea of what I'm doing. I will link all the recipes down below. 3/4 cup of sugar that we're adding to this mixture. And you can either add in a teaspoon of vanilla or lemon zest. I went for vanilla. And I'm also adding in a heavy pinch of salt. Now we are going to be whipping all of this up until we get a really nice fluffy meringue. And this will take about 15 to 20 minutes on high speed. So basically, I whipped this until I got these soft peaks like this. If you have egg, keep on whipping until you get stiff peaks, but you just can't really achieve that with aquafaba. We've been beating this for like 10 more minutes, after it reached this point. Now we're going to get into finishing up our batter by adding in some flour. Okay, so I zoomed out again, and now I'm just going to remove the beaters. I'm going to transfer this into a larger bowl just so it's easier to mix everything together. Now I'm going to be folding in some sifted flour. This is 1 1/3 cups of flour, I believe. I already sifted this, but if you haven't, make sure to sift it beforehand. This is just going to get you a really nice smooth batter. And just fold this in until everything is incorporated. You don't want to over mix or over beat this because we just beated a lot of air into the meringue that we created. So you don't want to remove that air because then you're not going to get a super fluffy cake. So I mix this until just combined. This is either like an 8-inch pan or 9-inch pan that I already floured and buttered. And I'm just going to be adding my batter into this. I think that I'm going to need 2 pans. I also already preheated my oven to 350, so make sure to do that. So I just filled in my pan, and I'm going to bake this for 40 minutes. Or until a toothpick comes out clean at 350 degrees. Okay, so now we're gonna start working on the mango puree. While my mom was whipping up the aquafaba, I did start cutting the mangoes. You're going to need 2 medium mangoes for the puree, so I'm just cutting these up. And then I'm just gonna transfer this into my blender. Hi, it's Renu.
Hi, it's Renu. इसे यही रखा रहने देना, क्यों गंदगी मचाती है? कुछ करती है नहीं, इधर से इधर ना गंदगी मचाती रहती है।
Okay, so now this is all the mango that we cut. My mom did most of the work, but here we are. And I'm just gonna blend this in this like ninja blender until we get a nice puree. And then I'm probably gonna add like a tablespoon or 2 of sugar into it too, just to balance things out. my mangoes were pretty ripe, so I don't think I'm gonna have to add in too much sugar. But if your mangoes aren't like ripe enough, or you accidentally cut like, you know, a little bit of a sour mango, you can definitely add in more sugar. Okay, so the puree is pretty good, but I think I'm gonna add in just a little bit of sugar to make it a little sweet. Right now it isn't really sweet or sour, it's kind of just like mango. So I'm gonna add in like a tablespoon of sugar, which I guess is like a tablespoon. Put that in. I'm kind of just eyeballing it, and I'm gonna blend this up again for like 5 seconds. Okay, this is really good. And I'm gonna put this in the fridge because my cake is still baking and I kind of don't want this to get warm and gooey, so I'm putting it in the fridge. Okay, so hey guys, I'm back and this cake tastes terrible. So basically, I don't like, the cake just didn't rise at all. I put it on a little cake stand. It looks like a pancake and it didn't rise. I'm not sure if it's because the aquafaba isn't acting the same as the egg or if I whipped it too much or not enough, but it looks really bad. So I'm gonna start fresh on this tomorrow. I'm still keeping the puree, and I started making the frosting. I literally just put powdered sugar in here, but basically we failed. And tomorrow, instead of trying to make this sponge cake, I think I'm just gonna make like 2 regular vanilla cakes. I'm gonna bake those because I know how to make vanilla cake. That works for me. So I'm gonna bake that. I'll share the recipe with you guys, and then we'll use the puree that we made today, and then I'll show you guys how I make my buttercream. And yeah, so we're gonna do it tomorrow because I just spent like so much time on this and I'm tired and I can't physically do it today. Hey guys, and this is take 2 of making a mango cake. So I did some more research last night and I was just like, I'm not about to make a sponge cake. I will do that another day, and I'm just going to stick to my regular favorite vanilla cake recipe that I have been using for all the time that I've been making vanilla cakes. Okay, so I'm gonna start off by whisking all of my dry ingredients, and this is 3 2/3 cup of flour. We're going to mixing in a teaspoon of salt into this mixture, and then this is my baking powder and baking soda. I have a teaspoon of baking powder and then 3/4 teaspoon of baking soda in here. So I'm just gonna add all of that in and whisk those together. These are just our dry ingredients. Okay, so now once you have everything really nicely mixed, we can set this off to the side. So to make buttermilk, you're gonna need some milk. This recipe calls for 1.5 cups of buttermilk. So here I just have 1.5 cups of regular milk. Now I'm going to be squeezing the juice of half of a lemon into this bowl, and then I'm going to let it curdle for 5 minutes while I work on creaming my butter and sugar. So I'm just gonna squeeze this in, and I'm doing this on top of my hand, so any seeds that come out will catch into my hand instead of going into the bowl. Now I'm going to let this curdle off to the side while I work on creaming my butter and my sugar. So we are gonna start off with 2 cups of regular granulated sugar. You can also use organic sugar. I have done that before and it tastes exactly the same. I just use regular white cane sugar. And then you're going to need some room temperature butter. So you're gonna need 1.5 cups of this, so about 3 sticks. These 2 sticks are already room temperature. I sliced them up as well, but this stick was actually in the freezer, so I'm gonna microwave this and make it kind of room temperature. It's okay if your butter is slightly melted. I feel like there are some recipes where you don't want your butter to be melted at all. Like maybe when you're making cookies and stuff, you really wanna make sure that that butter is room temperature. But I feel like for cakes, if you forget to take your butter out, it's okay to microwave a little. It's okay if it's a little bit melted. Not a huge deal. So there's some butter in the microwave right now, but I've started kind of mixing this together. The rest of that frozen butter, it's kind of melted, but that's okay. And then I'm just gonna leave this butter in the bowl and probably use it to grease my pans later. So now we're just creaming this on. This is a lot of butter and a lot of sugar. So this cake is definitely not healthy by any means, but it is an amazing vanilla cake, and it's gonna be a great base for the mango filling and stuff that we're gonna put in. Okay, so this is pretty much perfect. It's a little paler than before, and everything is really nice and incorporated. My buttermilk has also curdled. So now we're going to be adding in our eggs, and I'm doing quotes because we are not using real eggs. So since I don't cook with eggs, I use an egg replacer. Now there are a lot of egg replacers out there that can be used for baking. You don't even have to buy something like this. As I mentioned before, you can even use yogurt and applesauce. There's a lot of different substitutes. This is a packet that I've already opened. So for every egg, use 1.5 teaspoons of the powder and 2 tablespoons of water. So this is just my little teaspoon over here. We are substituting for 5 eggs. I just filled up a mug with water. And if you see here, I have my little like frother thing, and I typically use this to froth up milk, make my whipped matcha and stuff like that, but this is also just a great little mini whisk. So I'm actually going to be using a mix of a spoon and this little thing to kind of whisk my whole egg mixture together, and then I'll show this to you guys. So I'm going to grab my tablespoon, and I'm going to be adding in 2 tablespoons of water at a time. So here we have 2 tablespoons, and I'm just going to use my little spoon and kind of mix this together. And I'm going to add another 2 tablespoons. Mix everything together. This is my whipped butter mixture. I'm going to be adding in a little bit of this in at a time. And I'm just going to mix it together. Now I'm also going to be adding in a tablespoon of vanilla extract. This is a pretty generous amount of vanilla, but I believe that it makes a pretty big difference. So now, since everything is nice and mixed regarding our little butter and energy mixture, I'm going to be adding our dry ingredients. And once we incorporate all of these, then we're going to be adding in our homemade buttermilk. So I'm just gonna add in a little amount at a time. So I finished folding in all of my dry ingredients, and this is what it looks like. Now we're going to be adding in our buttermilk, and just add this in a little bit at a time. This is the finished batter. It looks pretty nice. It's a little chunky, but that's okay. That's just natural. I'm going to quickly butter and flour 3 pans, and then I'll be right back. Oven is preheated to 350. And I have buttered and floured 3 pans. So now I'm just gonna fill all of these up evenly, and I'm gonna fill up all of them halfway. I filled up all the pans and leveled out everything, and now I'm going to bake them in the oven at 350 degrees for 23 to 26 minutes. Hey guys, so I'm back, and our cakes have baked and cooled. I just put all of them on this little plate here, and I popped them out of their pans. I let them cool for like an hour or 2 while I was doing some other things. And now we're going to prep the vanilla buttercream frosting. I already have 1 cup of unsalted butter in here, and then I have my hand whisk, and we are going to be mixing this until it's light and fluffy. Now we're going to be adding in our other ingredients. So I'm going to start off with my powdered sugar or confectioner sugar. You need 4 to 5 cups of this. I'm going to start off with 4, and then I'm going to add more if I think that my frosting needs to be a little bit thicker. So I'm just going to add in a little bit. Add it in about like half of it. And I'm going to mix this on a very low speed because I don't want powdered sugar to get everywhere. Now I'm going to add in our heavy cream. This is a 4th cup. You can either use heavy cream or whole milk. Either it's fine. So I'm going to add that. I'm also adding in 2 teaspoons of vanilla and a heavy pinch of salt. This is what my buttercream looks like, and now this is ready to be transferred into a piping bag. So I just grabbed a random mug, and this is a pastry bag fitted with this tip. This is a Wilton 1A. It's pretty thick, and it has a pretty large round tip. I'm gonna fill this with my buttercream. I filled the piping bag with the frosting, but make sure not to fill it all the way into the top, otherwise you won't be able to twist it. And then I just made a little dot so that I can secure my first cake layer. So for frosting this cake, I have the mango puree that we prepped yesterday, the buttercream frosting, and then I'm also going to be putting some simple syrup onto these cakes. Here I just have some simple syrup that I use for all of my cakes. This is a mixture of just brown sugar and water. Sometimes I use regular sugar, it just depends on what I have. And I'm using this little brush, and I'm just brushing simple syrup all over the cakes. And this, honestly, simple syrup is an amazing thing. It keeps your cakes really nice and moist. I feel like whenever I don't use this, within a few hours of making my cake, they just end up being really dry. So I always soak my cakes in simple syrup. This is my cake. As you can see, I just soaked it in simple syrup. Then I have the vanilla buttercream that we made, and I'm just piping a circle around. Now, I'm not like a professional at frosting. Now what I'm gonna do is grab the little mango puree that we made and fill the cake with this puree. I'm going to grab my frosting again and just kind of cover the top with a little bit. This is so bad. And then I'm going to grab my next cake layer and pop that on top. Now I'm just gonna repeat the same steps. Just finished frosting my cake and I really like how it turned out. I'm gonna put this in the fridge so that I can cool and set, and then we're gonna decorate the top. So my mom just helped me cut the mango for the topping of the cake. By help me, she did it for me, but basically we cut the mango into these slices that kind of look like this. So you cut the sides of the mango and then you make sure that you peel the skin off, and then you just cut it into I dropped it, and then you just cut it into thin little slices. And we're cutting it this way because we're gonna essentially be creating a flower on top of the cake. I think it's only been like 10 or 20 minutes that the cake has been in the fridge, but I kind of want to take it out, so we're gonna take it out and finish decorating. Now we're gonna start constructing our little mango flower. So I'm gonna take the biggest pieces and lay them on the outside. I hope that I'm doing this right. And I'm gonna leave a little perimeter. I think I'm gonna put it here. Like little perimeter on the outside because I want to add little like frosting flowers on the side with a star tip. So I want to make sure that I have enough space for that. So I'm just constructing my flower. I hope that this doesn't look ugly and it ends up looking good. Decorating the cake and it looks really good. I'm just gonna top it off with a little bit of simple syrup. Next, I'm going to be adding just some decorations on the side. So this is the same pastry bag, but I fitted it with a star tip from Wilton, and I'm just gonna fill this up with some buttercream. This is the finished mango cake. It looks so pretty. I made the little flower with the mango slices, and then I just added just some little dots over here with the star tip, and I think that it turned out really great. And the final step is the taste test. I'm just gonna cut a little slice. I'm so excited to try this out. I cut a slice for myself and I'm gonna test it out. It has that really nice mango puree in the middle. I have some mango pieces and some frosting. It's really good. I think the simple syrup was really nice because it soaked into those cake layers and made them really, really moist. The frosting also tastes really nice, and just little mango pieces and the mango puree just make it so fruity and summery. If you try out this recipe, definitely leave it down in the comments. I would love to see you guys try to make this cake. Make sure to thumbs up this video if you liked it and subscribe if you're not already. I post my videos every Tuesday and then weekly vlogs every Thursday, so make sure to come back next time to check out my videos and also turn on post notifications so that you know every single time I upload. Bye!